What's up, everyone? My name is Coach Fitz. Welcome back to my channel. Just wanted to get on and do this live video. I'm sure as many of you have heard about the mass shooting, I believe, in Nashville, Tennessee. 6 people were killed. I believe there were 3 children around 9 years old that were killed. Janitor killed, head of the university or the schooling killed, and a substitute teacher. RIP to them. Just wishing strength and everything for their family as they get through these tough times. So that's first and foremost. But I really wanted to get on because I heard something interesting while listening to a podcast that really struck a nerve with me, and I kind of just wanted to give my perspective on it and see what y'all thought about it and all that great stuff. So, as everyone knows, these mass shootings tend to happen every year, right? And when they happen, everyone, especially those most affected by it, are looking for solutions. They essentially want to know, how can we prevent this from happening again? All right, great question. What is the solution to mass shootings? I'm going to give my perspective on that. But first, I want to get into what I heard earlier, okay? Now, apparently, the person that did the mass shooting, I guess, was a transgender woman, I guess. It was a transgender woman, biological male, transgender woman. Not really relevant in my opinion. It's just something that the news adds in there. But this person apparently went to a school that they used to go to. They're 28, so they went there years and years and years ago and ended up shooting it up, killing a bunch of people. Now, I heard a podcast. It's called I think it's the PBD podcast, PBD, Patrick Bet David podcast. Great podcast. Go check it out. That's Patrick Bet David. Love the podcast. Listen to it all the time. They were talking about this shooting, and I think there was someone named Adam on there. He's a part of the podcast, part of the home team. He's regularly speaking on the podcast, and I believe it was Adam. I was listening while I was driving, so I couldn't see, but it sounded like him. And one of the things that he was saying was that in these cases where there's a mass shooter and they go and kill children and people, he believes that if the person is killed, or just in general, that the family or their close friends should be imprisoned, essentially. They should be held accountable. Now, okay, like I said, love the podcast. I absolutely disagree with this perspective, and here's why. Here's why I disagree. Because if we are going to say that you are accountable for somebody else's actions, then that opens up a Pandora's box. Now, I get it, because another thing they said was, well, we already do this in the law. If you have a child and that child breaks somebody's window, you're liable for that. You have to pay. Very different thing. I think it's very different if you have to pay money versus if you have to pay with your time, aka incarceration, right? I don't believe that, especially as an adult. This person was 28 years old, right? I'm 29. We're a year apart. I am a grown man. If I, for example, under this perspective that Adam was talking about from the PBD podcast, if I let's say I got into a vehicle and I was drinking and driving, I hit somebody, killed 3-4 people, 2 of them children, right? Under this perspective, and let's say I die in the accident as well. Under this argument, my dad, chilling at home, gets a knock on the door. Hey, bro, get dressed, putting handcuffs on you. You're going to prison because your 29-year-old son got in a DUI accident and killed people. Not only do I think that sounds absolutely ridiculous, I don't actually think it would stop people from doing the bad things and making the bad decisions that they make. Okay, and here's why I had such an issue with it is because this podcast, they're mainly talking about entrepreneur stuff, being accountable. If you want it, you can go get it. If it's your fault if you're poor, it's your fault if you're rich. Those types of things. And I think we have to be consistent with those things because I think those are great principles. I believe if you want to make something of yourself in this country, you can. If you want to be wealthier, you can. If you want to take things into your own hands and develop a better mindset and start doing things to put you on a better path to the type of life you want to live, you can. But what I don't think is healthy is when something that happens that we don't like, when something happens that we don't like, we want to then say, you're no longer accountable. The people you love are accountable, right? The people you care about are accountable. Because what type of message does that send, right? Where does it end? Do we say this is just for school shootings, or is it for DUIs, right? Because if it's like, well, you killed so and so, and so now your family member has to pay for that. Your family has to go sit in prison because of that. Where does it end? Right? If I'm a if that because there's some school shootings where the parent or whoever that person lived with, they got shot before the children, right? The person was at home and they went and shot the family members up and then they left. If that person survived at home and then that person goes and shoots up a school, does that the cops knock on the door still? Like what? It just seems like it'd be hard to be practical about this, right? And I'm gonna give some solutions that I think, but I was listening to this on my way home and it was very cringy. It was very cringy when I heard the idea of, we need to hold these people's families accountable because it puts the message out there that when you do something horrible, you're not accountable for your actions. That's not you. That somebody else is responsible. And it just seemed very contradicting because when it comes to money on this podcast, and many other entrepreneurs hold this perspective as well, where it's like, if you're broke, it's your fault. You did it. And if you hold the power to be broke, you hold the power to be rich. Right? Everything's within your control. It doesn't matter what type of background you come from. Doesn't matter if you grew up gang banging. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, whatever. Doesn't matter the adversity you face. You're responsible for the outcomes. That's what a lot of these people preach. A lot of entrepreneurs, myself included. So when I hear this podcast talking about, your family should be held accountable. And if you don't have any family, they even went as far as to say your closest friend should be held accountable. Even if they had no idea what you were going to do, they ain't talked to you 3-4 days, whatever, they should be held accountable. Totally disagree. I think that if we start trying to hold people's families accountable, then that's pretty much us admitting that, a person is not capable of being accountable for their actions. I think it fosters even worse behavior. Why? Okay, I think when you hold other people accountable for someone else's actions, that legitimizes them doing something. Because if someone else is accountable for what I do, then that means on some level, I don't have to be accountable for what I do. And I'm the type of person where I want as much accountability as possible. And the reason I want as much accountability as possible is because then I'm in control of my life. See, we can't play with accountability. We can't say someone is 100% accountable for their actions when it comes to money, finances, the type of life they want to live, bad decisions. But then when they make decisions we don't like, now somebody else is accountable. We need to hold somebody else accountable. I think it's a total contradiction. Okay. So, and make sure you go check out that podcast. Like I said, it's the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet David podcast. I think it's something like 6 dead, 6 killed in the Tennessee mass shooting, something like that. But I'm going to give a couple of my solutions. Okay. One solution that I think is worth investigating when it comes to school shootings, because I also want to add that the previous solution, which was hold the families accountable, if you're in a family that you really don't like, that could also be a way to get back at them. So it could backfire, right? If the idea is that this person committed a mass shooting because they come from this horrible family that didn't raise them right, well, don't you think that that person that's going to commit the mass shooting holds some type of resentment towards that family? And if they held some type of resentment towards their family, what better way to get back at them than to do something that's going to put them in prison? Right? So it kind of falls apart. But one solution that I think is viable is um, understanding and teaching more about gun safety. Not necessarily for the shooter, but I think at a certain age, right? I think at a certain age and certain maturity, and this is probably way, way in the future, way radical right now, but I think at a certain age, children should know how to use guns. And when I say children, I'm not talking about a 5-year-old. Maybe 10 through 18, yeah, but start teaching younger, right? And the idea is that I don't know if there's any research that's been done on this topic, but if there's a way to teach children how to defend themselves in these situations, I think that would be much more viable, right? I know that people have posed the idea of having security and things like that, but there's even situations where, like, there was a shooting in Buffalo, New York, where there was actually a security guard on site and he still was shot and killed. Um, so that's one solution, is teach children gun safety, teach children how to properly use guns, and maybe have a couple weapons in the classroom for children as well, not just students and not just teachers. That's one solution. I know that that's way out there, sounds crazy, but I see these movies and stuff where you got the mom and the dad teaching the 6-year-old how to shoot a gun and teaching them the responsibility. That's just one option. Um, Second option, okay, are more armed security guards, not like a militia type of deal where the children, it's like a prison, but having more armed security guards at these schools. Um, I really don't have as many solutions as I would like right now. It's not something that I've sat down and thought about in terms of how to actually solve this issue. I just want to get on and give my opinion about the accountability piece, because that's what I do as a coach, is like, I'm all for accountability. I think that if we start holding other people accountable for what other people do, then it's just a mess. But that's my little 2 cents on that. 2 cents on that. Sorry, 2 cents on that. If you got any value from this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, all that great stuff. Let me know what you think would be some viable solutions for mass shootings, and I'll see you in the next video.